to bigay agad assignment, something to do. I want everybody to prepare. What are you guys expecting? And give in advance your questions. Alright, para hindi sayang oras while I am sharing my screen.
All right.
Wait
So,
lang.
dear participants, for Miss Pam, so she would like to ask, what are your expectations in our pre-PFA simulation webinar? So, remember, after this, on next week, we will have a simulation activity. You will be paired, you will be grouped accordingly. And so, what are your expectations? So, comment down. Just write your answers in the comment box, and Miss Pam will be gladly to answer those questions later, especially the expectations that you're setting in your mind at the moment.
Alright, so thank you for that. My name is Pam again, and I've been in the guidance office for almost 10 years. The moment I graduate, I go straight to counseling. So that's my forte. I've been in an international school for quite a while. Medyo matagal ako doon, like 6.5 years. And then I've been in a private college like STI for almost 2.5 years then. So yeah, so those are my experiences. So please don't be boxed on all the things that I'll be sharing, because I'll be sharing based on my perspectives and based on my experiences as a counselor and what I have experienced in the field of counseling, especially in the school and counseling families, students, professionals, mostly in the academe setting. So other than students and families, I also counsel professors, teachers, staff. So those are most of the where I'm coming from. My perspective will be from those areas. So the next slide that I'll be showing to you is the first activity that I want to know. What are your expectations? What are your questions for this webinar? So, meron na bang nag-chat? I'm really sorry. I'm so not techy when it comes to Zoom.
Yes, Miss Pam, meron na po.
Meron na. Saan ko
Yeah.
makikita?
Sa chat box po, sa nakalagay sa baba chat, or pwede nyo pong i-scroll yung arrow nyo sa taas, may lalabas po na sa gilid po na 3 dot, and then may chat po doon.
Kasi I'm just seeing my screen also.
So
Oh
sa
my
screen
gosh.
po, sa name nyo po, pag tinapat nyo rin po sa name nyo, meron po dong more sa taas ng name nyo. Pag pinindot
Okay.
na po yung dot, may chat po.
Ay, lumiit lang siya. Sorry. Teka lang.
Yung 3 dot po sa taas. Sa
Okay,
name nyo lang.
and then chat.
Chat, yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. I can see now. Okay, so saan tayo nag-start? Sino nag-start? How to be resilient.
How to be resilient. Yes, that's correct.
How to be, the first answer is how to be resilient but while giving a PFA. This is from 172. And then, teka lang. To learn to have fun and to manage my emotions in a difficult emotions. Zyril. And then how to be resilient by giving. To explain further how to completely administer PFA. We're gonna learn that. All right. So without further ado, I'll go straight to my talk. So this is the second one that we will be talking about. This is the agenda for today. So the number one would be community-based psychological first aid. We'll be learning about what's community-based PFA, and what are the techniques. And then number 3 will be the agencies to reach out. And then actually I added one under the agencies, which is the process of doing the PFA. All right, and then number 4 would be the question and answer portion. And then you can also add your experiences and also what your clarifications or if you have additional information. All right, so I'll go straight. Until what time tayo? So that I can budget my time.
Usually po,
8?
yeah, yes, 8.
8.
So 8 po,
Alright.
and then for the talk, 1 hour to 1:15.
Sure. Alright. So, parang na-discuss na before yung PFA. Siguro, dun sa mga bagay na na-discuss, like yung what PFA is not, I'll just show the presentation and then parang pasadahan lang, para lang mabilis, so we can save more time and we can focus more on doing, kasi gusto ko talagang i-focus yung how to do a PFA. So, alright. So, paano to? Ba't parang di siya nagne-next? Anyways. Teka lang ah. Alright, so what is a community and what is PFA? So, if you're going to try to Google it, hindi kayo makakita ng meaning ng what is community-based psychological first aid unless you go into studies or researches about community psychological first aid. So, para mas klaro, we will discuss it in two separate ways. So let's talk about what's a community. So a community is a group of people living together in a same place or having a particular characteristic in common. So therefore, these people doesn't necessarily in just one community or barangay or in a certain compound. Pero these people could be working in a same company. It could be a small group like in a department or a team. That's already a community. So, yun. So, for example, those people, kakagaling ko lang from the grocery before the seminar. So, can we call those people in the grocery store, the managers, the baggers, the cashiers, can we call them as a community? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can call them as a community. So now we talked about what psychological first aid. So it's an evidence-based, informed, modular approach to help children, adolescents, adults, and families. And it's a response for an immediate aftermath. All right. Or a response, immediate aftermath for a disaster or terrorism. I remember way back Yolanda, people are trying to do PFA, but we were the first time that I got to know PFA was during Yolanda. We were trained in Ateneo before, pero parang 2 days training lang siya. So to be honest, I'm supposed to go to saan nga ba ulit yun? Sa Tacloban.
Yes
My
Opo,
po.
parents
Tacloban po.
didn't allow me. Yes, correct. But my parents didn't allow me. So those people that I trained with, like were around 20 yet or 30 in the group. Some of them really went to Tacloban and the place was really devastated. Like, have you heard about stories about Tacloban, what happened after the Yolanda? So, just to give you a background, it's like everybody, like, uh, dead people all over the place. So, parang normal na sa kanila yun when you're walking in the streets. Other than sa mga sira-sirang bahay, sira-sirang mga gamit na nakikita nila sa paligid, you will also see dead people, like bodies of dead. And di ba kapag baha or di ba parang storm surge kasi yung tumama sa kanila, you would see medyo bloated na yung katawan. So that's how medyo traumatic talaga yung experience of those people. Even those who were conducting the psychological first aid really had to do the briefing after doing the BFA in Tacloban because the place was so hit badly by Yolanda and the people are so, it's like parang chaotic, as in they don't know what to do, and some of them they don't know what to feel anymore kasi naubos lahat ng buong pamilya nila. Like, all of their relatives are dead. Like, I got a story, one from a friend na ang natira na lang sa pamilya niya is like parang yung isa niyang anak and then siya. And then everybody in the entire family died because of that. So I hope that because of that picture, you can see what psychological first aid is. It has to be aftermath, right? Like right after. So for example, kung usually 'di ba bagyo meron sa atin. So kung ang bagyo ngayon, umalis na yung bagyo, it has to happen. PFA should happen right away. So dapat immediate response natin is to go to the site already. We don't usually talk or plan pa lang right after the tragedy or the disaster or the terrorism attack. It has to be prepared. That's why if someone is already working in the HR or somebody working in the industry, some companies, they have this group of people, they call it the risk, if you heard about, especially banks. So they're planning for the worst case scenario. So for example, this pandemic, I have one of my cousins is working in a bank. It's a national, I'm not sure if it's an international bank already, but she's working in a bank. It's a big bank already in the Philippines. So uh her work is to determine what are the worst case scenario. Siguro yung worst case scenario na lang na hindi niya naiisip is a zombie apocalypse, to be honest. Pero lahat na lang na-discuss na lang nila before. So even the pandemic, this thing, they already know what to do. So they are already prepared. The moment it hit uh the the country during the ECQ, she was so happy because she just retired from the company and she's so happy, and then she's telling me that now they're benefiting from what I have worked for the last certain number of years. So that's how important PFA and planning will be in the PFA. Later we will be talked about that more. And so what is PFA? So and community-based PFA. This involves the provision of basic psychological support by general community members to their family, friends, neighbors, and fellow community members. So therefore, PFA is more on providing psychological first aid to your neighbor or someone next to you, not just your family, but just the person right who lives beside you. So if you're in a company, the person who sits right beside you, or it could be someone from another department if that a disaster or something beyond your control happened in the organization. So in short, ano lang to, parang immediate people other than your relatives, you will be helping out. So community base is more about, yeah, PFA in the community or in a small group. Hindi siya hindi siya ano, hindi siya kasing lawak or hindi siya kasing big time compared nung before in Yolanda, in Ondoy. It's more on the difference is like, for example, if I go to Tacloban, I do PFA. That's PFA. But if I'm in an environment where a flood happened in our place, and then I do PFA, that's community based PFA. So did you get what I'm pointing out? It's like doing PFA to someone who you also feel what exactly they're feeling. So, naramdaman mo din, naranasan mo kung ano yung eksaktong nararamdaman nila. So, one best example is the pandemic, the ECQ and all, because everybody can feel almost, parang ano yun, yung we can feel each other on what's going on. So, we know exactly, or maybe somehow more than exactly, or a bit, maybe yung konti, not so exactly, pero somehow we can highly relate to the people beside us or living in the community because we experience what they're experiencing, right? So this is what PFA is not. So I'll just show it just for the sake of showing it. So I think this is already discussed with you. This is not about only professionals. This is not about professional counseling. This is not about psychological debriefing. And this is not about put time events in order, and not about it's about, although PFA involves available to listen to people's stories, It is not pressuring people to tell your feelings or reaction to an event. The last bullet, maybe I'll just focus more on that for this, what is PFA is not. I remember when we were training in Ateneo for the PFA for Yolanda, what our trainer always reiterates, like, please do not force them to tell you what happened, what what is going on, what they experienced during the tragedy or even during the disaster, kasi it will just trigger the trauma. And we know, parang ano yan, parang rape victim. Hindi mo pa ulit-ulit napapakwento kung ano yung nangyari. Kasi it will just, parang alam mo yun, yung may sugat ka na, mas parang kinukuskus pa yung sugat mo kasi hindi pa nga hilom. Kakatapos lang eh. So, that's how sensitive we should be when we're doing PFA. So therefore, what is community? Teka lang ha. I'll just adjust my screen. Okay, so what is community-based PFA? So it is not psychotherapy or any other kind of intervention performed by a mental health professional, but it is a type or care provided within a community's natural support system. From one community member to the next to the mitigate stress ranging from daily hassles to extreme stressors. And it requires only rudimentary knowledge and skill to care for the wide range of needs. So, hindi mo kailangan maging expert. Hindi mo kailangan maging licensed psychologist, licensed guidance counselor, or licensed social worker, or kung ano bang license to provide medical or provide immediate care for someone. So, you just have to know at least the basics. So, promoting natural strength, enhancing existing support systems, and increasing resilience in individuals and communities. So, later we'll be talking about more of these bullets. And unique form of helping. Why is it unique? Again, because you are experiencing somehow a big portion of what they are already experiencing. That's why it is unique. All right. So, here are the characteristics of the support of what is community-based PFA is about. It's more on calming, connectedness, promoting hope, sense of self and community efficacy, and sense of safety. I remember when during the ECQ in the house, I'm living in a compound with the entire relatives, so we're so careful because I'm living with three immuno, what do you call this? I'm living with three oldies. My dad, my two aunts. I know, three aunts pala. So there are four oldies. And my mom's also quite old. She's approaching senior. And then, so the young people in the house are those who are between the age of 30 to to 40. Those are my cousins and me and my sister. So meron kaming young na meron kaming bata sa bahay. So, parang teenager siya. So, wala na siya. Hindi na siya pwedeng lumabas ng bahay automatically. So, usually, ako or yung kapatid ko, yung usual na alay. Pero most of the time, ako talaga. So, yon. So, it's more, we should promote calming and connectedness to one another despite of the physical or social distancing that we should observe most of the time. And we have to reassure one another every now and then that everything's gonna be all right, that our needs will be provided, that our finances will be stable. Kasi wala kang trabaho. You're not doing anything. You're not earning anything. 'Di ba? Parang, ano na to? Ano na mangyayari sa atin? And here in our barangay, to be honest, I'm not bashing the barangay. Pero parang sa buong ECQ, we only received 3. Maybe we're even fortunate kasi we received 3. I'm not sure with other barangays. So, we only received 3 waves of ayuda. Yung mga delata and something. But we're so blessed in a way kasi I'm living in a community where people are very hopeful, and parang kapag nauubos na yung hope ng isa, yung isa naman sobrang hopeful na. So, we're just blessed na hindi kami nagkakasabay-sabay na nagiging hopeless. So, yung community-based PFA is more about of these characteristics, and I want everybody to focus on this. Ito yung support. Ito yung characteristics ng support na you have to embody. And the moment that people see you, those people that you are helping out in the community should feel this. Tingnan ka pa lang nila, they should feel this. So, later we'll be talking more about how to embody these characteristics of support. So now we're going to the next part, which is community-based PFA 8 modules or core competencies. These are the usual trainings when you're gonna do PFA for community-based. So it's an 8-module trainings, pero gagawin lang natin siya ng ilang oras, pang isang oras lang. So papasadahan lang natin siya. So number 1 would be being a good helper, traumatic stress. There's also a session about grief, a session about active listening, problem solving, referrals for additional help, ethics, and self-care. So this is late. Okay, maglala. Babalikan natin yun. So later we will talk more about those 8. This is an infographic style of what is a disaster, pero hindi ako nakapaglagay ng picture pala. So if you remember, our definition of PFA is more about an immediate aftermath of a disaster and terrorism. So, I would like everybody to be more aware when it comes to planning. Kasi when you go back to your barangays, when you go back to your community, to your place of work, I hope that whatever you will learn here, you will apply at least kahit doon sa team nyo lang, kahit doon sa small na district nyo o sa kanto nyo, yung isang street sa ibang street nyo, kung close kayo ng mga kapitbahay nyo. I hope that you guys can, plan together to have a community-based PFA. So, meron lang dalawang uri ng usually pinoprovide ng PFA, disaster and terrorism. So, these are the definition of disaster and then terrorism. Later, I'll be showing to you, ito yung 3 types of disasters, the natural, the man-made, and the hybrids. So, yung natural, yun yung mga act of God. Man-made, ito yung events result from human decisions or human errors. So, ano ba yung example nun? Man-made, for example, yung Chernobyl, the power plant Chernobyl, if you can remember that or if you're aware of that. So, hybrid, this is hybrid disasters are compound or human decisions or natural forces, or it could be, combination of natural and man-made. So, this is a sample or a diagram of disaster. So, it is divided into 2, the natural disasters and then the man-made. So, ayan. So, the natural phenomena, merong earthquake, tsunamis, volcanic eruption. Yan, nangyayari na yan sa Pilipinas, except I think the tsunami. Natural phenomena of the Earth's surface, landslide, and avalanche. Siguro yung landslide in the Philippines. I am mentioning if you what's happening in the Philippines so that at least you can create or plan ahead what we're going to do, the PFAs, what we're going to do if this thing happens to us. What if landslide yung mangyari? What if flood yung nangyari? So, I'm telling you at least an idea of what usually happens. So, for meteorological or hydrological, I think floods and droughts. And then for biological, more an epidemic, the epidemic is currently happening right now. And the dengue never leaves us. It goes on and off. What else? Yeah. So, yun, yung pandemic, the COVID-19. Man-made disasters here are the man-mades. Fire, leakage, toxic release. I'm not particularly sure if this is happening or maybe near barangay if you're living near factories. Possible. Structure collapse, physical assets, explosions, pollutions. So, yeah, so I think this could happen in your company, like, for example, your production failure, computer system breakdown, yes, and fire, yan, crowd crushing, stampede, ganun, structure collapse. And then for wars, yung international conflict or national conflict. So if you still remember the Abu Sayyaf, that's a form of a national conflict, or the NPA, possible conflict. Hybrid disaster could be floods ravaged community built in floodplains. Alam mo yun, yung ganon. So, clearing of extensive jungles causing landslides, locating residential factories in avalanches area. So, for example, yung pagtatayo ng bahay near mga flood-prone areas, yung not so effective drainage system in areas na madaling bahain, quote unquote, like Marikina. Yon. So, yeah. So now we're going to the techniques in community-based PFA. So we will be talking about the 8 modules na. So for the first one, for being a good helper, you just have to remember this 4, encouraging positive outlook, sensitivity towards others, and then cooperate. So to be a very good helper, you can just say this. Maybe I'll just focus more on the encouraging and positive outlook. So make sure that you season your words with salt and butter. And I mean, make sure that all the things that you're saying are worthwhile and all of your saying are something that can encourage or uplift someone's spirit, especially when it comes to disasters. No, so pero wag naman yung masyadong positive. We have to be positive outlook in such a way na hindi tayo OA, pero in such a way na possible naman talagang mangyari na situation. So important din na for being a good helper dahil community naman siya. Kilala nyo somehow yung mga taong nakapaligid sa inyo. So at least you know what are the feasible positivity outlook that you can at least look forward when you experience something that is beyond your control. Sensitivity towards others and then cooperate. So make sure that you always cooperate, make sure that you always follow the instructions if you're on the part of the members, follow the instructions of the management. I remember cooperation is sometimes about obedience, even you don't understand completely what's the reason for obeying. I remember my boss way back in Victor Christian International School. She told me that sometimes you have to obey first, and then later on you will understand. Because when cooperating or doing something, especially in a company, sometimes we tend to say, bakit kailangan gawin to? Bakit kailangan gawin yun? Sometimes you have to stop asking those, and we just have to do it. And then later on, you will realize, kaya pala siya kailangan gawin because we have to avoid certain mistakes or certain situations that might happen if we don't follow it. Yun. So the second one is traumatic stress. So when someone or when a disaster happens, automatic there's stress. But what makes stress traumatic depends on how people manage stress. So you have to be careful when you're talking to people, when you're trying to understand them. Please do not downplay their situation because their situation might be something big to them. And for you, if that situation on them is happening to you, baka for you it's something small lang. Pero for them it's big deal. So you have to be careful. So extra sensitivity talaga. So make sure that you establish rapport because sometimes just being there and being able to show or showcase the you're willing to help or at least to listen is enough for them to feel less stress. So make sure na important talaga na ma-master mo yung being a good helper. So and also kapag something na merong trauma involved, you have to know when to refer. That's why I put their referral. So the third one is this one is grief. So maybe in grief, when someone in the community died, there's nothing that you can provide other than just be there. No? For example, sa mga sitwasyon, parang simpleng ano lang to, simpleng pangyayari sa isang pamilya. If somebody, for example, suddenly died, you can't just say na I understand you. or I can feel you, unless you experience exactly what they're experiencing. So please be careful when you say that. Even kahit hindi death or grief yung reason. For example, yung makipag-break yung girlfriend. So please don't say na I understand you, manloloko talaga yung mga yan. So make sure na situation. Kasi kapag hindi, better not to say that na I understand you. So that's why in my counseling sessions, I'm very careful when I say I understand you in that situation. I have to make sure that I have a supporting detail why I'm telling I understand you. Kasi yung mga kausap natin, they are human beings. They think. Alam nila kapag nagkukunwari lang tayong mabait or we're just doing the job assigned to us to do. So, when, for example, if it's grief, we have to be sure that we are genuine in what we are showing to them. We have to make sure that if we want to help them, we are really helping them. So, if in grief, wala tayong magagawa dun. All we have to do is to be there for them. Provide what's their need. For example, way back, for example, in Yolanda, when I know someone who works with the mayor. She's a very good friend of my sister. So when she got back here in Manila, she told us all of the experiences she had during the Yolanda. And then during that time, because many people died and meron ng mga uh, isang clan na nauubos, na parang ilan na lang yung natitira. So usually what usually they do, they just ask them, anong maitutulong namin sa inyo? That's very powerful. That question is something that life-changing, especially for someone na merong pinagdadaanan, not necessarily grief. Sometimes, we can't just, we can't verbalize the words, but that question is a big help. So, huwag niyong kalilimutan yung question na yan. Anong maitutulong ko sa'yo? Kasi hindi man ikaw directly yung makatulong or the need that they are really need immediately. For example, bahay, wala silang bahay, kaya mo ba ibigay yun? But we know someone, we should at least know and hear them what are the needs that they want. If they're grieving, most of them, they don't need anything. Gusto lang nilang mabalik yung taong nawala sa kanila. Pero again, the basic needs and provide comfort. That's vital when we're dealing grief. And accept that this is a process and inform them that this is really a process. I remember when a neighbor died, she lives like around, I'm not sure, like parang dalawang kanto lang from our house, and we're puzzled if COVID yung kinamatay niya. And she was the mother of my classmate, elementary classmate, and we're quite close before. So we didn't know what happened. Walang burol na naganap. So we just grieve in our house, and we just accept that death is really approaching. And the question is when. It's not about, ano yun, yung question na talaga siya ng kailan siya dadating to people. So, we just have to accept the fact na everybody's going on a process, and their families having the process of grieving, and it will take some time, especially it's sudden. That's the thing with sudden death. That's very, medyo mas matagal siyang i-process compare sa yung expected na. For example, meron malubhang sakit, ganun. Or matanda na, as in matanda na. So, those kind of deaths are very sensitive when it comes to, and quite difficult yung process ng, you know, uh, cope up, the DABDA, if you're familiar with that, psychology students. So active listening. So I can say that active listening, we're on the fourth one out of 8. This is very important, especially in counseling. So, active listening, we have to make sure that we are really listening. And we have to make sure that we are really You active listen not just with your ears, but also with your entire being. That's what I always tell my students. When you listen, make sure that you make them feel that you're listening, not just by simply putting your ears near them, not typically like that, but it's more about yung body language pa lang should be, alam mo yun, ramdam na nakikinig ka talaga. So I don't know how do you show this to people around you when you really intently listening to people, pero I know you have your ways when you do listening. Paraphrasing and summarizing is also a good way of listening. When I was in the call center before, I tried it for a month because I'm so curious about it. So it's very important that you paraphrase and summarize what the customer or your patient, in a way, a PFA, or your client is trying to tell you when they're sharing something, to you, especially if it's a story. You have to make sure that at the end of their story, you have to at least summarize what they told you to make sure that you listen to them. And at least in summarizing, habang sinasabi mo yun, maiisip mo kung ano yung next mong jumping question, especially when you're doing counseling. So, note-taking is also a good way, but make sure that you ask the consent of the person sharing the information to you that you are going to take note of what she's telling. Right? Make sure that there's a consent. Parang ano yan, record, audio record. You have to make sure that there's a consent. Confirming and clarifying. So, confirm and clarify. Confirm ko lang kung ito yung gusto mong sabihin, kung ito ba yung ibig mong sabihin doon sa phrase mo na wala na talaga. So, does it mean that saying na parang wala ka nang naiisip na paraan sa problema mo? That's very important. That's a sample way. That's usually what I'm doing when I'm doing counseling. It's very important that you clarify. And to parang echo, in a way, yung tanong sa counseling mo or sa person na kinakausap mo when they're sharing something to you. Okay? So now we go to the 5th to the 8th. Problem solving. So when there's a problem, make sure that you ask what's their chief complaint or their problem. So what's the main cost or the main problem? And current status. Whenever I do problem solving in a scenario, I always make sure that this is my technique. I don't know with you. I always have a pen and a paper with me. A marker is a very powerful tool when you're doing this. I do cognitive mapping. I map. I put there all the things that they're telling me. And then, based on the things that they're telling me, nakikita nila kung ano yung sinasabi nila into words. And it will help them resolve their problem. And remember, when you're solving a problem, you know the current status, you explore the options with someone you're talking to, and you evaluate the options so that you can come up with possible resolutions. Make sure that you're not the one solving the problem, or you're not leading the one you're talking to what you think is the solution to their problem. Bakit? Bakit natin kailangang iwasan yun? Kasi kailangan nating iwasan yung ganong sitwasyon. Kasi sa konsensya mo yun babalik kung sakaling hindi yun e-epekto. Kailangan we have to empower the one that we're talking to. If we're the one supporting help, part of helping is to empower that person, is to have the same energy, the same perspective that we have. Alam mo yun? Yung we have to convince them that they're the one who's solving their problem. You're just helping them map out their options. So that's problem solving is. Marami pang ano to. Remember that these eight are modules. So isang session to or dalawang session depende sa kung gaano katagal. So I'm just telling you these are based on my experiences as a counselor. So number 6 is referral. So this is my reminders to teachers and parents whenever they do referral to me. Know when to refer, know who to refer, and know the process of referral and do the follow-up. When I got the STI, I made a referral form. And that referral form, the professors really, I can say that they really appreciated me because of that referral form, because now their student values their time more. When you're in a college, we have a tendency of not attending classes. Kasi trip lang natin, di ba? Alam mo yun? So, at least the students got aware na my professors knows that I am leaving classes or being absent for a certain number of times. And more than that, the counselor of the school knows that. So, at least, alam mo yun, merong kasing follow-up na nagaganap. So, know when to refer. These are situations na you think this is beyond your expertise. No? So, also, know who to refer. Your person. Kailangan ba talaga niya ng psychologist, social worker? Kailangan ba niya ng attorney? Baka lawyer yung kailangan niya, hindi psychologist. Kailangan ba niya ng, baka naman kailangan niya lang ng kausap. No? Know the process of referral. This is how referral goes on. The person you're talking to, do the bloody documentation. I call it bloody kasi talaga namang madugo gumawa ng documentation. You have to make sure that when you're referring, especially if you're planning to go to HR, or if you're planning to go to the guidance department or guidance work, you have to make sure that you do the paperwork. Why? It is very important kasi it will give the person na papasahan nyo ng referral a better picture of the person you're referring. Para merong mga information, may mga process na hindi na nila ulit gagawin or papasadahan na lang nila when yung referral nasa kanila na. And make sure that when you're referring someone that is below 18 years old, make sure that you always talk to the parents first. Okay? Baka meron kayong kapitbahay na narinig nyo na rape. You want the person to refer to DSWD. You don't just directly go to DSWD to do that. You have to talk to the immediate guardian of the person. No? Unless yung immediate guardian yung nagkukos ng problem. Okay? That's the time that you go straight to the SWD and forget about the protocol of guardianship. Right? So I hope that you guys can, understand more about the referral. Medyo mag-extend lang ng konti for referral. When in a company, make sure that you have a certain rules and regulations when it comes to referrals, especially in your HR. You have a certain processes and make sure that you go straight to it. Walang skip. Believe me, kasi minsan mauuwi to sa demandahan. So, huwag kayong mag-i-skip ng documentation. Okay, ethics. Medyo simple lang yung nakasulat dito sa presentation. It's about importance. Bakit important? Legal matters, paperwork, and feedback. Ethics is very important. You know naman bakit, diba? Ethics is just the standard that we should follow. Make sure that we don't hurt anybody and make sure that we're following the law. That's why merong legal matters. And make sure that we are doing enough documentation of what we're doing. So later, I'll be showing you why documentation is important. And then feedbacking. And then self-care. Yeah. So I'll be showing you a process about what's the importance of self-care, how to do it. Pero just to show you, know yourself, seek help, and refer to oneself. Involve immediate relatives or companion, and then know the power of rest and chilling. So, when I was in the guidance, my classmates told me na feeling nila hindi sila tatagal sa trabaho ko because, may toxic, ikaw yung tumutulong sa mga taong sumolve ng problem nila. And their problem, parang from the simple as inagawan ng lapis hanggang sa divorce ng parents at to police station, something about legal, you're gonna help your students or the people that you're rendering your service. So I see to it that I know the ways that I can cope. I cope. You have to know yourself more. So alamin mo kung saan ka nagtatrive, ano yung comforting sa'yo, ano yung magbibigay sa'yo ng assurance and makakapag-renew ng hope mo. And sino-sino yung mga tao na pwedeng makatulong sa'yo. And then, ano yung mga bagay na pwede mo pang gawin para make sure that you always be mentally healthy. My parents know that my job is quite emotionally toxicating. So they know that when I'm at home, after work, I'm not supposed to do any work at home if it's a work day. That's how they support me. So, especially, I tell them, I verbalize it, ma, galing akong presinto, ma, I had a meeting with parents about divorce. I have one meeting with whatsoever case. Pero I don't really share the story to them. I just share them ano yung hugot ko for the day and what kind of baggage, emotional baggage I am carrying. So yeah, and know the power of chilling. So make sure that in a day you have time to rest or at least to relax your mind. So usually before the pandemic, I do these chilling moments whenever I travel, commute from work to home with my earphones, listening to music, walking around, eating ice cream, ganun. So, ganun, chill. And then every weekend, I always make sure that I have a free time, just be with myself and do the things that I want to do. Kasi kapag hindi ka marunong magpahinga, the mind can do so much more, but your body is just a vessel. Remember that our bodies, they might lose. Alam mo yun, nauubos din yung battery natin. So, kaya ng utak, pero baka yung katawan ng bumigay. So, that's very, mahirap naman yun. So, when you're doing PFA community, make sure na you're also protected. You're also assured and secured. Kasi kapag binigay mo lahat, paano ka pa mas makakatulong ng ibang tao kung wala ka na or hindi mo na kaya ulit tumulong pa? Okay. So, here the agencies involved, papasadahan ko lang siya, of course, yung barangay, the SK, all the people, the volunteers in barangay, DSWD, the PAP, and of course, the NGOs. So, like this, the organization who created this. So, para sa bayan, no? So, these are type of NGOs that we should at least know or affiliate with in the future. So, thank you so much for inviting me here. So, at least, no, nag-voice out ko yung na knowledge ko when it comes to this area. Okay, so now, we go now to the apple of our talk. So, creating your own community-based PFA. How to do it. You start your own community-based PFA by this one. You create a team. Okay, make sure that you have the finance team, the planning team, the first response team, the second response team, the data team, and the volunteers. So let me go ahead with the first one, finance team. Of course, from the word itself, finance. Sila yung hahawak ng budget. Sila din yung mag-iisip saan kukunin yung budget. Sila din ang gagawa kung paano ma-acquire yung budget. Diba? The processes, the documentations, the requests, the letters. There will be the main people on those. Kaya yung kukunin ng budget, yan, sila yan, the finance team. Remember that when you're, bakit kailangan ng budget? In every project, budget is very important. Kasi kung wala kayong pera, wala kayong resources, paano kayo gagalaw? Okay? Always remember that in a project, there should always be a budget. Planning team, no? So what are these people are the minds, the brains of your team. Sila yung magpaplano usually kung paano paikutin yung buong dynamics of your community-based PFA. On your execution, sila din yung magpaplano. What are your approaches? Sila yon. So, sila yung pinaka-brain, no? For your first response team, these are the trained individuals. Sila yung alam yung first response. Sila yung pwedeng sumugod agad right after the disaster or the terrorism. So, sila yon. So, sila yung cream of the crop. Ganon. When it comes to trained individuals. Second response team. So, the first and response team are just the same. Pero your response team should be always available not just equipped. But when it comes to community-based, availability is very important. So you have to make sure that these people are always on the go. Sila yung ready laging tumulong. Yung laging nandyan kapag may sakuna, mga ganun. Data team, these data team are very important when it comes to planning. Sila yung taga-survey, mga taga-tanong-tanong, taga-chika. So, yung kung may mga chismosa kayo sa kanto, yun, pwede nyo silang i-involve sa data team. Pero, kidding aside, these data team are supposedly equipped of knowing what to know. They should know kung ano dapat ang mga important information that they should know. These informations are very important when doing a community-based PFA to make sure that the execution, the implementation will run smoothly. I do encourage you guys, especially if you're head of the SK, or if you know or you have connections in your barangays or in your community, in your company, make sure that you have a very strong data, because data can say a lot of things nowadays. Uh, my sister is a statistician, and I learned it from her that it's very important to have data. My entire years of being a guidance counselor, I made sure that I have data. I make sure na I know what I am targeting. I am doing what I should be doing. I am giving the technique and the right approach whenever I talk to someone because I know all the datas. I have anecdotal reports from their teachers. I have survey reports on my surveys, on my profiling and my personality test and stuff. Data is very important. Kaya in barangays, when the COVID happened, just to give you, my point on data, kaya nahihirapan mostly the barangays and of course, just to say the Philippines about data is because wala tayong data. Wala tayong kakayahan na i-trace ang isang tao right then and there. When my colleague way back in Victor Quezon International School is now residing in the US kasi nakapangasawa siya ng doktor na Pilipino din. So, nandun na siya sa US ngayon. Sabi niya, sa US daw, they have the national ID, di ba? So, the national ID determines what type of ayuda you will be receiving. So, and it's trackable and it's recorded. Ganun sila katindi doon. So, if you're not a citizen, wala ka talagang aasahang ayuda. So, I do hope that sooner or later, with the youth that I am talking to right now, I do hope that kayo talaga ang pag-asa. Well, youth pa rin naman ako. We are the new hope, the new source of hope of the country kasi sobrang important nung data. No? So, I do hope na kahit yung simpleng data lang, you know how to do it. So, the volunteers, these are the, yung mga backbone, yung tagaluto, tagabili ng ganyan. So, sila yung volunteers. Okay? So, the planning ahead here. So, this one, processes and logistics. So, sila yung nagpa-plan. And then, apply. Medyo napabilis ako kasi may nagbukas ng microphone. Are you guys supposed to announce something? And
Sorry, Miss
then,
Pam. I think,
reinforce.
sorry, Miss Pam, baka may nakamute lang. No, don't
Ah,
worry.
hindi naman.
We're enjoying your
Okay, okay.
discussion. Sobrang
All
helpful.
right.
So please continue. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, here. So, plan ahead. Make sure that you're planning before, so processes, logistics, and execution before the actual possible event. So when you plan, make sure that you're in with the entire planning team and also volunteers who would like to join the plan. Remember that you cannot plan without the data. So you have to make sure that not just training but also the data. You have to know what's the need of the community. For example, in our community, we don't need ayuda. Hindi naman sa pagmamalaki, pero if you're familiar with Project 6, the places here, the people here doesn't need ayuda. Meron mga iiba who would appreciate, especially yung rice, yung bigas. Pero what we really need here, most of us are taxpayers. So what we really need here are cash. Pambayad ng kuryente. yung mga kapitbahay namin, even in our compound, that's what we need. We need cash. Something that's, I don't know if they have some sort of a data about it. Pero I think, yon. So, parang kung sana yung ayuda, ginawa na lang nilang pera, siguro mas ma-appreciate pa namin. Pero on a different scenario, for example, in a different, I know this place, ano ba to? Dito nakatira yung pinsan, not really a relative, pero parang pinsan ng pinsan ko. Pero not blood relative. In their place, mas na-appreciate naman ng mga tao yung ayuda talaga na material things. Kasi the people, especially in the province, they would really appreciate the ayuda, not the, the material goods, not cash aid. So yun. So you have to make sure that you plan logistically and efficiently on how you're going to do, community-based PFA. Hindi ko masabi kung ano yung eksaktong recipe on this planning. Kasi iba-iba tayo ng pinanggagalingang community. Iba-iba tayo ng pinanggagalingang, alam mo yung konteksto. So, I think now, meron kayong idea on how to do it on your own. Especially, what are the current problems, pressing concerns in your community. So, at least you know what to do already or ano yung mga common situations na needs PFA. So, ito na, yung application. Ito yung actual immediate response. So, you send your first response team and then the second response team. So, yon. Reinforce. Make sure that you report and regroup. Kasi meron kayong mau-overlook at mau-overlook. Kahit gaano kayo katindi magplano, meron kayong makakalimutan sa plano nyo. So, malalaman nyo lang yun kapag nag-implement na kayo ng pinlano nyo. Oh, we forgot na merong ganitong situation. Ganon. Mapag-uusapan nyo yun during regrouping, no? So, you have to regroup, gather your strengths again. That's why, if you remember, the what to call it, the MECQ got laid out again because the medical people needs regrouping. They need to prepare again, not just rest. Sino bang syong nagsabi ng rest daw? No, they need regrouping. They need to plan again. They have to strategize again. Kasi mataas na naman yung cases. So, this is that portion, no? They're regrouping. They're gathering again the information. Mas tumitindi ba yung virus? Effective ba yung ginagawa nating implementation? Sapat pa ba yung equipment natin? Sapat pa ba yung mga PPEs natin? They should do that. Sapat pa ba ang lakas natin? Baka merong tao na 15 days straight nang pumapasok, 'di ba? So, yun, kailangan nyo yung gawin. And reports and regrouping is not just for the benefit of the people around you, but also for the benefit of the organization. And then, during the regrouping process, you will find out more support activities that you might need, no? Follow-ups that you have to do. Baka naman kasi, pag bumalik kayo ulit sa battlefield, no, with the people that you need to help with, baka naman hindi na kasing hindi nyo na kailangan talaga ng first response team or the second response team. Baka kailangan nyo na ng mga volunteers din to provide the basic needs or other needs of the people. So, ayun. So, make sure that at the end of all these, I do hope na, for example, at the end of this ECQ pandemic and all, kapag okay na yung vaccine and the treatment for COVID, I do hope that the government, from the executive, legislative, down to the barangays, and even in the houses, I do hope that everybody will learn from this one and evaluate and do feedbacking. Make sure na we learn from this one and what we should do in case something like this happens again. No? So, just to give you a heads up, nagiging unstable yung internet connection ko. So, baka nagkaroon ako ng problem. So, just let me know lang ha. So, now we go to the activity. This is an activity. Do we still have 15 minutes to spare? Hello?
Yes, Miss Pao. Yes, I think so. We can still have an
All
activity
right.
for that.
And there's a prepare room for them, right? Prepared
We
room?
can we can automate it po. So
Ah, sige.
just let us
Okay.
know po.
Sige po. So, I'm not sure how many are you guys now in the room. Kasi nandun ako sa
We're
presentation ko.
Yeah. So right now po, half of those who signed are present. So they are 30.
30. Alright. So, maybe we can divide it into smaller groups kahit group. So, you will be divided into 6 groups with 5 members and you will be asked you to create your own community-based PFA using the process. This process. So, maybe pili lang kayo kung galing kayo sa iba't ibang setting, community or company. Ano yung mga gagawin nyo dito? Paano nyo siya gagawin? No, yung kahit rough draft lang. Again, you have to focus on one problem at a time lang. So, this 15 minutes is only good for one problem lang, okay? So, ayun. So, indicate the following. Make sure that you indicate the profile of your community, the committees that you will be forming. Baka sa inyo, hindi effective ang may data team kasi may data na kayo, mga ganon. Or baka first response team lang ang kayang buuin. Hindi na kailangan ng second response team because of the population. Okay, so just indicate the communities you will be forming and why you are forming those committees. And then the fund source, make sure what are your feasible fund source. So donations, volunteers, ganon, possible. And the event, indicate what's the event or the main problem, okay, or the disaster that happened. Number 5, what are your suggested strategies to in providing community-based PFAs on that based on the event that you're presenting. Okay? So, after this, kasi if I'm not mistaken, we will be going to the questions and clarifications na lang. So, you will be given 15 minutes from now on. So, yeah. So, I'm very strict with time, no? So, I'll give you an additional 1 minute. It's 7:24 on my clock. Maybe 7:25. I'll be back by 7:40. And you guys are free now to go to your rooms and enjoy the activity.
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Pam. Uh,
By the way, make sure that you uh can you hear me pa? Yeah. Hello. Hello. Yeah, make sure that you come back here, huh?
practice to. Magandang practice to. Sige lang. So,
So,
again,
ayun.
identify na kayong tatlo. Okay,
No,
go.
tapos last
More.
natin is actually kami dito may tinatawag kami sa team natin na parang admin committee. Kumbaga sila yung naka gumagawa ng mga plan A and plan B.
Okay.
Project proposal and sponsorship. Event natin is yung magkakaroon tayo ng everyday concept, iba-ibang concept and interaction sa mga kabataan natin. And last, suggested strategies. Ano pang mga naisip yung strategy na pwede nating gamitin? Parang pagdating sa strategies, parang hirap no? Kasi community kasi siya, sobrang lawak. No? Pero siguro parang medyo ano na lang natin, i-compress na lang natin siya sa mga kabataan na lang. Kasi more on kabataan naman tayo. Diba? So parang doon na lang natin siya i-compress. Huwag na natin siya kupin lahat ng community kasi hindi naman natin siya kaya. Diba? So ayan, isip lang tayo ng...
nga, no? Pwede tayo mag-focus na lang sa kabataan.
Two normal of students. Tapos, number 2, source of income. Ano yung number 2?
Iba yung number 2. Wala, nalo ko lang yan. Napindot ko lang.
Kaya ate, or
Sa kanina.
dito, since complicated masyado yung online class, kasi di ba, kumbaga, hindi na makakapag-online kasi maraming hindi afford. So, pwede naman siguro na yung kahit anong field na lang, kahit wag na lang sa education siguro.
O sige,
Siguro kung
okay
ano
lang.
since
Kung nahirapan tayo.
Ano po need pagkatapos ma-set up yung committees?
Take note na lang po siguro natin yung saan po ba magsisimula sa situational. Gagawa po ba talaga ng situational?
Hindi po ako si RJ.
Ay, sir. RJ, ikaw yan.
Tarang lang.
Kala ko ang boses mo.
Sige. Sige.
Sige, RJ, ano
Sige,
yung
ano na yung
mo,
next?
personal opinion mo? Sa akin kasi,
to listen doon sa naiplano yung team. Ang saya pala dito, may breakout session. Okay, who wants to share? Any brave first response team member? There's no right and wrong. This is our exploratory and learning experience for everyone. So we will appreciate if someone will, take the courage para mag-share din sa group na to. We will be having more of this like. All right, so let's try JF daw. And then another group hopefully. So let's listen to JF and then after that, another group. JF, take it away.
Nawala ka kanina din sa Aloy.
Nilipat ako sa ibang group kasi ibang group kulang.
Okay, sige, sige.
So go
Naloka
JF
ako.
and then introduce your group mates by the way. So after this, someone will be the next one pero ito yung gagawin. Introduce your name, perhaps the name of your group mates kung natatandaan. Sana and then your plan. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Again, this is John Francis Yanson or just my nickname JF, and we're from Group 2. And my group mate is ano ba? Si Frances, tama, and Wenzel, tsaka si Bry. I'm not sure kung saan yung kanyang ano nila. Ayun, si Wenz sa 176, si Franz 171, and si Bry from 168. Yeah, that's my teammate, okay? Medyo, I'm not sure kung ano siya, ano ba, tama ba or maganda, pero I'm trying my best. So yung namin, tinry namin or profile your community, ginawa naming sample. Actually, nagkaroon kami muna ng sharing ng ideas. Una is sunog, tapos pangalawa is yung mga magsasakan nagkaroon ng pagkalugi dahil tinamaan ng bagyo or natural calamities. Then they about to harvest their root crops. And we won, and I won the sunog. Very kasi siya dito sa lugar natin. No? So, yung aming, yung sunog. So, yung second namin is, yung communities namin. Before kami nag-end up dun sa committee, nagkaroon muna kami ng ad hoc committee. Kasi yung share lang din ng idea, parang meron ganun talaga sa isang mga programa na magkakaroon mo na ng tinatawag na ad hoc committee. Kasi for example, 3 lang kayo or 4 lang kayo, no? So ad hoc muna yung gagawin niyo. That's the time, kayong 4, maghahanap kayo ng prospect or kaming 4 sa team, maghahanap muna kami ng prospect na gustong mag-join sa program. Kasi nga, yung gusto naming tulungan is yung mga nasunugan. So, come to think of it, we're 25 on the team. And after noon, nagkaroon na kami ng mga iba't ibang departamento or committees. We have volunteer committee, donation team, or yung sa fund, data, data align dito yung mga responder, and admin committee, sila yung head, yung talagang taga-check kung saan na yung plano, plan A, plan B, plan C, sila yung naka-assign doon, and yung distribution team and follow-up team. So for the scenario, ito yung sunog na aming parang yung pinaka-main scenario namin. May pupunta muna dong first respond team or the data team to analyze what happened. Kung mag-aalamin kung ilan yung bata, ilan yung buntis, ilan yung mga matatanda. So, ilang family yung nagkaroon ng or naapektuhan ng malaking sunog. Tapos, that's the time, papasok ulit siya kay admin committee or the entire team para i-disseminate na yung possible program. So, si volunteer committee, naka-assign siya sa maghahanap ng tao, align siya doon kay distribution committee. So, for the donation, paano makakaw kami ng fund? We try to, parang kausap-usap kami kanina na may magpo-post sa social media. But first, syempre, try namin do a solicitation sa mga officials ng barangay. Yet we understand na magbibigay naman din sila. Pero may mga sampa ka rin kasi na makiki-tie up lang, di ba? Or makiki-join force para mas mapalawak pa yung pagtulong. Second is yung sa amin kasi to give you a scenario rin po. Current po sa barangay namin or sa lugar namin, may ginagawa kaming program under ng church na inaatinan ko po ngayon na ang tawag po namin dito Box of Love. Parang where can we get the Box of Love? How much yung item na nasa loob ng box? Para siyang ayuda version ng mga municipalities natin. Pero ayon, binibigay siya sa mga naging tawag nito, naging ano ba to? Positive ng COVID within our barangay. Pero syempre, hindi namin i-disclose or hindi namin sasabihin kung saang area to. May connected partners lang kami, kaya papasok dito si mga community. Parang ganun din po yung gagawin namin na we chat from the church members na this is the program, ano yung pinaka-core, ano yung pinaka-objectives, bakit namin ito ginagawa, and saan mapupunta yung aanihin namin. So after that, we will send a proof. Kumbaga, okay, ganyan. So, tapos yun po, after nun, namin ano namin ng donation team, alamin namin kung paano yung setup niya. Doon na po papasok si suggested strategy. From first responder, pa-follow up na, susunod na po doon si second responder. Kasama na po si committees or yung mga iba't ibang committees. So yung head ng donation, ng data, kasi siya yung may hawak ng papel, sa buong lugar na to, itong street na to yung may mas malalang nangangailangan. Okay, for volunteers, pasok kayo, dito kayo, o buhatin nyo from distribution team. Parang ganong setup lang po ba. Kasama na doon yung follow-up team. Kumbaga may mag-one-on-one talk. I'm not sure kasi pero ginagawa namin is doon sa paper na nilalagay namin dito sa Box of Love, may nilalagay kaming letter, words of encouragement, at the same time Bible verse. Tapos if you want to talk or medyo nabuburyo kayo, ganyan or something na kausap, nilalagay po namin yung contact number. Tapos nagkakaroon kami po dito sa church or yung pastors po namin na nagwa-one-on, tinetext niya talaga. Tapos pag nagre-reply yun, tatawagan niya, mag-a-align po talaga kami ng load para lang po kausapin din sila. At least ano po ba yung purpose? Kumbaga parang share lang din po na there's a reason behind kung bakit ka nagkaganyan. Siguro dahil mas kailangan natin patatagin natin yung faith natin kay Lord. Sometimes we forgot Him, pero si Lord hindi tayo kinakalimutan. Mga ganong klaseng word of encouragement. But let's be thankful na sa amin po, lagi namin sinasabi na thankful kasi nabigyan ka ng oportunidad na tulungan ng pamahalaan. Yung mga iba mo pang sakit, mas matutuganan pa sa ganyang aspeto. In positive mindset po or positive scripting po yung ibinibigay. Tapos, ano pa ba? After nung ma-distribute na natin sila, maghahanap pa po ng follow-up kasi hindi lang po doon natatapos yung pagbibigay ng tulong sa mga nasunugan. The one box or worth of items na ibibigay mo is hindi naman po agad-agad. Though marami po talaga matutulong. Siguro ang nilagay ko pong strategy namin, after ng basic necessities na maibibigay, ano pa yung pwede? Nawalan sila ng damit, nawalan sila ng mga gamit sa school, mga ganun po. So yun lang, medyo inano ko na lang po yung sa team namin and maraming salamat.
Okay, thank you so much, JF. I think nasagot naman niyo yung profile of the community. So I'll go proceed na to the question and answer portion so that everybody can now raise their concerns. Can you still see my screen?
No po.
Hindi po siya nakashare?
It's okay. Ano lang naman siya? Question and answer na naman. So any question and answers?
Alright po.
Any questions or if you would like to answer a question, so feel free lang to add information.
So anyone who would like to ask questions? Just
Maybe
Sir,
a person. Go ahead.
Feedback po dun sa parang ginawa naming paano ba? yung setup po na namin, pinlan. Kumbaga. Okay lang po ba yun? Yung mga ganong klaseng strategy?
May feedback?
Yes.
Actually, natuwa ko dun sa, meron pala kayong parang box of love. And parang napipicture out kayong community nyo na parang you guys are quite close to one another and you guys are very active when it comes to reaching out one another, especially during kahit sunog. So, alam mo yung, I really appreciate it and that's one way to get connected. So, I just hope lang na, so everybody gets, ano yun, be part of it. Or you have to make sure na you're encouraging everybody to participate. I do hope that meron kayong ganong strategy na meron ding ibang nagpa-participate and to measure at least the participation of the other people. And then what else do they need? Pero for me that's fine. That's really good strategy so far. Yung what happened nung naisip nyo na kukunin yung funds sa partnerships, sa mga ibang volunteers, and then kunin yung basic needs kasi nga usually basic needs kasi yun yung nawala sa kanila, nawalan sila ng properties. So, yeah. So, you have I can say that you know what you're talking to, JF, and you've already experienced. That's why you're coming from that perspective. So, yeah. I think that's good. Thank you so much. So at
Thank you
least I
po.
know na at least your group started something and sinabi mo naman na you just supplied some of the information. Yeah. And then maybe I'll just reiterate lang din na during the groupings, maybe on your next sessions with other speakers, I do hope that you utilize your time when you're doing groupings. I remember myself, you know what I do when I don't like the topic or maybe I don't have any idea on what to talk about in a grouping. I just get to know the people na kausap ko. So, uy, kamusta ka na? Saan ka nagwo-work? Anong pangalan mo? Ganyan. So, chikahin nyo sila. And then, later on, as time goes by, especially series pala to, itong webinar. So, as the time goes by, mas may encourage kayo na mag-cooperate, makipag-collaborate, kasi kilala nyo na yung isa't isa. Maybe isa din yung sa mga dahilan kaya yung breakout room na nasamahan ko, they were questioning what's going on. Si Aloy keeps on establishing, encouraging one another to open up, say their ideas. So, huwag kayong mahihiya to open up your ideas kasi doon lang naman tayo lahat nag-uumpisa. Yung mula sa pinaka-simple hanggang sa pag together, you talked about it, magiging elaborated na siya, makakabuo kayo ng mas konkreto na plano. Kasi if you're not gonna cooperate, again, if you're not gonna collaborate, you're not gonna learn anything. And community-based PFA is more about cooperation, more about collaboration with other people. So, hindi mo kaya na ikaw lang, kahit licensed psychologist ka pa, kahit ikaw ang pinakamagaling, lahat na meron kang license, you cannot go alone on this type of scenario. You have to go with the team. And you have to open up and share and make sure that you are there. Okay? So if you guys any have questions and concerns, please raise them up.
Yes po. I think the next question will come from Miss Claudette Ann. Claudette, you have question?
Maybe you can just write it down kung nahihiya kayong magtanong personally or verbally.
Claudette?
I have a question po.
Ayan.
Hello, Miss Pam.
Hi, Claudette.
Yes, so naririnig na po ako. Hi na po.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, thank you for tonight's discussion po. Sobrang talagang knowledgeable. Ang dami ko pong natutunan. Kaya po may question ako ngayon. Paano po yung, kasi this is an issue sa barangay po namin. Paano po kung may narinig ka na may isang teenager na biktima ng rape dito? Paano niyo po i-deal yun? Paano niyo po siya parang, kasi ba po, sabi niyo kanina, bago po tayo mag-refer, lalo na po kung isa siyang teenager, kailangan po muna natin kausapin yung magulang niya. Pero base po dun sa narinig niyo, syempre maliit lang po yung community niyo, umiikot lang din po yung balita. Base po sa narinig niyo, yung yung tao na ng rape doon sa teenager na yun is mismong tatay niya. Paano niyo po siya i-deal? Paano niyo po parang gagawin yung mismong ano? Nahirapan po kung parang isalita yung question ko. Pero paano niyo po?
Yeah. How the process will go?
Yes.
Usually
yes.
kasi kapag ganyan, within a community, in a community kasi, you have to always look in a perspective na lahat kayo pantay-pantay. Unlike in a school, na kapag nangyari siya sa school, you are an authority. 'Di ba? You can go and talk to the person involved. Pero kasi when you're in a community and then may sabi-sabi, it all started with sabi-sabi. You have to gauge or decipher if it's gaano siya katotoo. Kasi posibleng totoo, pero you have to make sure na totoo siya, reliable yung source. And then, second, you have to look at the profile of the family. If you think the family needs assistance other than because of the possible rape case, you have to check if at least the family is capable of, fixing the problem on themselves. If not, you go to the next part, which is who do you think can can access or has the initial access to the family? It could be another relative living in the community that you know, or it could be someone from the barangay. Di ba usually sa barangay merong ano dyan, merong police station, I'm not sure, or maybe a police station assigned to your barangay or part of your barangay sa sinasakupan nila. Maybe you can refer it to the Women's and Children Protection, something like that. Action Desk, they call it like that. Women's Protection Health something. And you can report, no? Or kung this is if lang relative na involved, for example, the mother is covering the incident or no one else protecting the child, you have to seek also the legalities. So, pwede kang as a concerned citizen, you can go to the barangay, ask for assistance, or if you don't know someone from the barangay who can help you, maybe you can go to police station and report the incident. Sabihin mo na meron pong usap-usapan and we want to make sure lang po if the child is secured. What do you suggest is the proper legal way? Kasi usually kasi sa ganyan, kapag mismong parent yung tawag doon, primary cause ng stress, mahirap pumasok kasi you're in a community. That's why it's also unique. No, you have to gauge your parang doon. You have to gauge kung hanggang saan ka pwedeng makialam. Kasi you're in a community and you have to make sure that they're into the problem. Kasi if they're just trying to cover it up and you see the child seems nothing is bothering, medyo mahirap yan. Baka kasi you're just fighting a battle na ikaw lang mag-isa and the person that you're fighting for is not even willing to fight the battle. So, I hope somehow I shed a light about that case. So, ayun. And then also another thing, if you can also refer it to the guidance counselor of the school if the child's studying. Pero because of the pandemic, pwedeng police station. And, ayun, relative, pwedeng kausapin yung relative kung totoo ba, kamusta na si ganyan. Ito, start with that. Is totoo ba yung chismis? Tanong mo sa relative na rape victim po si ganyan, okay lang po ba siya, o chismis lang po yun. Kasi, the moment that they say, chismis lang yun, possible na hindi nga talaga siya nangyayari or possible that they're covering it up. Okay? Yon. So, ayun. So, make sure lang din na we're not, baka kasi kapag chismis lang siya, baka naman possibility, I'm just presenting possibilities. Baka kasi, ano mo yun, it could be chismis lang talaga. Alam mo yun? I know someone na naakusahan ng rape. Pero what happened is simply, natabig niya yung teenager kasi lasing siya. So, napadapa siya, napapatong siya dun sa teenager, and then the teenager thought it's rape. So, yun yun. So, possible din kasi na marami kasing, ano mo yun? Maraming pwedeng katotohanan dyan. So, yun. So, you have to gauge kapag rape case and abuse. And especially the cause of the abuse is the parent or immediate guardian. Kapag,
Thank you po.
unless yung abuse obvious ha, makikita mo naman din, especially if you know na, ay, siya yung chinichismis na na-rape. Tapos yung itsura niya, mukha talagang troubled. You know, especially if you're a psych major, you would understand
Yes,
where I'm
opo.
coming from. Alam mo
Yes,
yung troubled. So, yeah.
Opo.
Thank you so much, Claudette. And then we have last 2 questions. And the second to the last question will come from JF. Then for the others, so may isa pang tanong. Pwede kayo, if nahiya, just type in the comment box your question. So JF, take it away.
Yeah. Yes po. Actually, not really a question po, pero some thoughts lang din po siguro. Ang challenge lang po nito this end of the session siguro is yung educate them. Kasi not everyone are open-minded to give this type of ano ba, financial aid or something ng, ito dito tulong ako. Parang ganun po. Parang you need to elaborate pa muna, 'di ba? Na ganito, ganyan. At the same time, ang isa sa naging challenge namin dito, yung sa aming box of love. And siguro, possible maging challenge din siya dito sa may sunog is, yung politika. Hindi naman nawawala yun eh. Kumbaga, yung pinaka-politika, hindi, siguro tatakbo tong ganito, ganyan. Hindi ganyan. That's why yung ipapakita mo sa kanila yung proof mo na ito yung sinasabi mong politika. Ito yung sinasabi mo kasi tatakbo kong ganito. It happens po kasi sa akin during nung kinuha po kong bilang isang MC sa isang event dito sa barangay namin. Dahil daw po tatakbo kong SK chairman. Sabi ko, ha? Natawa na lang po ako, pero sabi ko, that's not my main concern. Yun po siya. Tapos, siguro ito na lang din po yung question, no? Ano ba? Yung, paano po ba yung magandang rebat sa mga taong ganong klase yung mindset? Yun lang po.
Yeah. Actually, totoo yun. Tama ka JF. Grabe ang politika. Even in the, kahit saang organization, kahit saang community, merong politika. You just have to know how to play with it. Kahit nga sa church, merong politika. And, so, kapag ganon, you just have to make sure that you're saying facts and not opinions, and you are supported by researches. You're supported by proven tawag doon, proven ways on how to go with it. So, depende kasi kung paano ka pinupolitika eh. There are some ways, merong mga bagay na you just have to let go. And then, there's just some na you just have to patulan. Alam mo, in a very smart way. So, ayun. So, ganun lang. You just have to make sure that you're just doing what is right. And you're just following the process. Way back when I was part of a school, and the politics is very, very strong. Here's the scenario. The scenario is most of the people are run by men, and the women empowerment is quite not that strong. So when you're a woman, you're just a display. You're someone to look into, not something to look up. Alam mo yun, so you just have to make sure that you know what you're saying and you're on the expert of the field. And whatever they say, whatever they tell you to do, you can back up naman what you're trying to prove, especially if you're trained to do it. So in my case, they're trying to control my role in the guidance office, and my take is that is not my role. By law and by practice, you can check all the manuals that you want, but that's not my role. Yun lang. So if you're following the law and you know what you're really into, you're the best in your field, who can go against you? Especially you're Christian, you said God. So if you're doing what is right, nothing to be afraid of. You just make sure that you retaliate smartly. So make sure that you're just saying what's true and what's factual. Okay, merong isang tanong. I hope nasagot kita, JF.
Yes,
JF ba
yes
tama?
po. Yes po.
Alright,
Thank
ma'am,
you,
good
thank you.
evening po. May tanong lang po ako regarding experience ko po sa PFAR sa Yolanda. Again, hindi po ako nakapunta sa Yolanda. I was just trained about it. How come na na-overcome niyo po yung situation na sobrang ready kayo and willing to help, then bigla pong gano'n na nangyari? Ano pong nangyari? Then since natakal niyo po yung plans kanina, pwede po bang ma-share niyo yung own experience? Paano po kayo nag-plan noon sa Yolanda? Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I was part of the team ready to go to Yolanda, but apparently my parents didn't allow me, so I have to at least honor their opinions. And so ang nangyari kasi noon, we're just a response team, more on parang second response na kami noon. So there's an organization, I think it was spearheaded by Ateneo. I'm not sure what exactly the organization name is, matagal na kasi. So ano siya, it's an NGO. So, planado na lahat. Pupunta na lang kami doon. Kami yung response team. So, they are encouraging volunteers to go there. Siguro I'll just be coming from a perspective, yung experience nung kaibigan ko who stayed there. Yung nag-work talaga siya under the supervision of the mayor. Sabi niya, the only way that you can overcome being a provider of help to people, and then you're also in need of help, is to seek help. You have to process it well, especially if debts and lost property ang pinag-uusapan. So, ayun lang. So, para mo ma-handle yon, again, if you remember the self-care that I've mentioned, you have to make sure that you know yourself. You know where your strength and your hope is coming from. And you know what's reality, what's temporary, and what might last long. So, yun lang. I'm not sure if I can answer this totally. Kasi hindi naman ako pumunta sa Yolanda. I'm just part of the people who train as a response, but not really experience what really happened in Yolanda.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. For our last question, so from Denmark. So whoever asked the question about Yolanda, later on, maybe after the evaluation or during the evaluation, you can approach me. I had an experience sa Yolanda. I was there sa Tacloban, giving psychological support. So later on, so we can discuss ano yung experience namin with some pictures na rin. So at least alam nyo ito yung itsura ng lugar. So, ma'am, Miss Pam from Denmark. Denmark, yes, you have question for our resource person?
Yes po. Hello po. Naririnig niyo po ako? Hello?
Yes, I can
Denmark.
Ayan.
clearly hear
Okay, yan.
you.
Ma'am, may tanong ko lang po, if ever po na, for example, nagkaroon po ng situation yung client niyo po, and ang sabi po niya sa inyo is, tinututukan na daw po siya ng kutsilyo, tas ang worst case scenario pa dito is magulang pa niya or kapatid pa niya, what would you do? So, yun yung mismong talagang question ko po.
Okay. So that is very
Oo.
this is not PFA. I think this is counseling in a way. I had experiences of that, especially way back in college. Yung college na sa STI before. So it happens in families, their problems, and students share you their concerns. Two ways. You have to think the age of the student sharing that to you, or the person sharing that. If the student is capable of separating home, pwede naman siya, you may advise na you can live with a relative, or you can, if you can afford naman, you can rent your own space. If lagi lang may struggle sa bahay nyo. Yun. So, especially if the person is working. Pero kung minor siya or dependent pa siya sa parents nga, it could be a call for individual counseling with a person na na-experience. You have to know the entire context. I can't say what exactly the technique that I can do or the questions that I have to throw to that person kasi I'm not there. I don't know the entire context, the entire profile of the person. Pero you have to go know the person first. You have to gather all the information. Bakit nauwi sila sa tutukan ng kutsilyo, 'di ba? And if needed, you can also call assistance, gather information from other people who know that person na nag-share sa'yo. Baka kasi meron ding history yung nag-share sa'yo na matigas ulo niya. Hindi siya nakikinig sa parents niya. Alam mo yon. Or talagang palaaway din siya. You have to gather all the perspectives kasi hindi lang yung makikinig ka lang sa counsel. Alam nyo, eto if you guys will go to a situation ng conflict, you will have to make sure that you're grasping the entire situation and you have to make the client feel that they can trust you. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're making feel the client na you're on the truth. You're on the right part. Hindi yung kakampihan nyo lang siya. Hindi yung iintindihin nyo lang siya. Hindi yun sapat. Kasi, again, we go to the helping situation. Counseling is about helping. It's a helping profession. And you have to make sure that you're really providing help. And hindi siya dapat compromising. And then second, if it's proven na talagang may abuse, there's really an abuse, the person is independent still with with the with the parents, or I mean rather, the person is still dependent on the parents na nagko-cause ng possible na hurt, you can seek help sa local DSWD.
Okay po, ma'am. Sige po, ma'am.
Or
Salamat po.
again sa police station.
Okay po. So, ma'am, salamat.
All right. So thank you so much, Denmark, and thank you so much, Ma'am Pam. That ends our session for today. And to give us remarks lang of our session, so an impression. So let's call on one of our participants, Mr. Christian Katapat. Can you share, Christian, yung iyong impression or reaction lang sa ating discussion or webinar tonight? Christian?
Yes, Sir Aloy. Can you hear me po?
Yes, loud and clear.
Ayan. So, it was a very productive and fruitful discussion with our guest speaker tonight. Napakaganda ng mga binitawan niyang salita, no? Na lalong-lalo na yung sa breakout session, yun yung isa sa nagustuhan kong part ng session tonight. So napakahalaga talaga ng planning and finances pagdating sa ganitong uri ng PFA sa community. So yun po. It was a good session tonight po.
All right. So thank you so much, Christian. And lastly, let's hear from are you there, Colleen? Is Colleen there? Colleen? All right. How about, sige, wala si Colleen. Let's have...
Hi, sir. Sorry, I'm having a connection difficulty.
All right. So, okay lang. Can you
Hello?
share now yes, loud and clear.
Okay, sir. Again, sir, pwedeng paulit po ng question. Medyo nagka-cut sa part ko.
Yeah. Can you give us your reaction or your impression for tonight's discussion, tonight's webinar?
Tonight's webinar, my impression to this is very, the topic is very informative, and then hearing from a girl's perspective, which is Miss Pam, it's very brave of her to be on, when in part nung naging part siya nung Yolanda and all. Parang it's very brave of her to see na parang she is helping a lot of people doon. So yun. And then dito sa webinar natin about the breakout session, medyo since bago pa lang, medyo nagkaka-rumble nung ideas and all, but overall it was a fun webinar and very informative webinar.
All right. So, with that,
Is it clear or medyo
palakpak
nagka-cut siya?
yeah. Palakpakan natin yung bawat isa for a job well done tonight. Yeah, thumbs up mark nga sa mga yes. Okay. And I'm going to share again my screen. So with that, okay. So maraming sorry. Yan. Post-webinar activities lang tayo. Tapos picture taking with our Para sa Bayan generous speaker. Today is our webinar 5. Actually, this will be the pre-PFA simulation seminar, yung mga practical tips na tinuro ni Ms. Pam, especially on strategies and techniques and how you can apply it in creating a community PFA, community-based PFA. So, and the next week, what we're going to do is we will have an interactive PFA simulation activities. We will be sending you your groupings through email and contact numbers nila para naman makapaghanda kayo. So, we will have more role playing and at the same time scenario building tayo. That's on August 23. And finally, if you'll be able to attend next week's event, so that will be 1 o'clock. So we will finally you will receive your certificate na or your ano tawag dito, katibayan na kayo ay CYLI Pool of PFA Responders CYLI is full of PFA responders na. We will also be having our orientation and onboarding, and hopefully by September, sa mga ready na, so we will be onboarding you, and then sa mga, lalo pat may mga ano na tayo, ay mga service users na need ng ating services. With that, hopefully, tuloy-tuloy pa rin tayo. You know what? There are 100 plus who applied for this. And then of 100 plus, guys, 71 got accepted for today's seminar. And then of 71 who got accepted, only 30 pushed through. So again, many are called, but few are chosen for this. So for the first batch of this cycle, kayo yon. So there are 2 more actually. So mahalaga din yung next week. So kapag nagpasan nyo to, finally we will welcome you sa ating pool, and hopefully we will learn a lot sa mga ano pa natin PFA related activities in the coming future, para tuloy-tuloy yung pagkatuto, hindi nawawala yung learnings, and at the same time we will be having more networks, more consultations with other stakeholders natin. Pag may nakita kami mga pwedeng activities or trainings for you, ay gagawin natin. So with that, at this juncture, I would like to call on the President of CYLI, John Paul Ominga, to present our e-certificate of appreciation to our Para sa Bayan speaker. Jap?
Hi. Thank you, Aloy. Hi, Ms. Pamela. In behalf of Caloocan Young Leaders Initiative, as well as the young people of Caloocan City, we would like to thank you for your time tonight and for sharing your expertise as an advocate of mental health. So just to quickly present to you our certificate of participation, or appreciation, sorry. The text reads as follow. So certificate of appreciation is presented to Ms. Pamela Rose Rosana for being a agapay sa Caloocan, for sharing her expertise, so that should be edited, as a resource speaker and mentor for Caloocan Young Leaders Initiative Psychological First Aid Response Training, webinar number 5, pre-simulation seminar held on the 15th day of August 2020, thereby inspiring the youth to be advocates of mental health. So once again, we really appreciate your being with us tonight. And we hope this is not the last, because we're in the organization, we hope to be able to do more of this so that we can um, build a community of mental health advocates starting from the city where we belong. So again, maraming salamat po, and siguro can we have a digital applause for Miss Pamela from the participants?
Yes.
Thank you, Aloy. Thank you, Miss Pam.
All right. Thank you so much at this point. We can proceed now, Jap, for our picture taking.
Okay. Can you guys open your video?
Yes,
Our
yes.
usual para sa
Our
pag-post
usual.
natin sa Facebook. And yung tinuro ni Sir, is that Sir Floyd or ano, the last speaker? Yeah, I
Sir
forgot.
Fred.
Sir Fred, yeah. Virtual hug, okay? Everyone ready?
All right, virtual hug, guys.
So how many batches tayo ngayon? So 2 batches lang. So paano ba yan?
Wow, ito na bang magiging pool?
Virtual
Excited
hug.
to meet you.
1, 2, Archie, Bartolome, you can't open. Okay lang din. Pero sige, 1, 2. Second batch. Okay. Thank you and congratulations to the 25 or 27 that are here tonight. Medyo mahaba-habang journey na rin yun, no? This is the 5th webinar and we really see your commitment and your dedication, and more than the numbers, we want quality, and we can really say na this is a quality bunch. Salamat din ulit sa mga nag-apply for the Mental Health Committee. Siguro pahabol announcement, we're opening various committees for the Caloocan Young Leaders Initiative. So it doesn't have to be mental health. If you want communications, you can also apply for comms. There's resource mobilization. There's climate action. There's a whole lot of other things. There's SOGI awareness. Yeah, different things pa. Quality education. We're posting about it on our social media. So make sure, guys, we've been announcing this since the start. Make sure to follow our Facebook page and also our Facebook page as Mental Health Responders. Parang onti pa yung members doon. So feel free to add and add your friends as well. So back to you, Aloy.
Yes, thank you so much, Jap. And then, of course, we want to hear from you. So, ipopost ko na itong ating mas shorter na ngayon na evaluation form. Nandito na siya. And then, we can still continue discussing. So, by the way, so next week, so ang basihan natin ng groupings ay base sa ipapasa nyo ngayon. Make sure naging problema nung iba yung email address and contact number na nailagay nila. So, before you enter, double check again yung mga nilalagay niyong information. So, ito na yung ating evaluation. I'm so sorry. Naka-ano pala siya. For everyone. So, once again, thank you, Miss Pam. Palakpakan ulit natin si Miss Pam. Sobrang ganda na naging discussion. And at the same time, yes, meron daw siyang appointment at 8:30. Thank you so much, Miss Pam, once again. So, guys, one more na lang para officially ma-welcome namin kayo as pool. So next week is just a fun activity applying all the lessons you learned from the 5 webinars. So this is now, and then how are you going to work with a team and with a pair? So magkakaroon tayo ng pairing at grouping next week at may mga scenario lang tayo. So yung mga hiya natin sa bawat isa, yan tatanggalin natin para makapag-dialogue tayo, role play. Kapag ikaw si PFA responder, paano yung gagawin mo? Pag ikaw naman yung victim, aarte ka lang. So naalala niyo si Sir Fred nung ginawa niya. So ganun lang din. And then kapag ikaw naman ang PFA responder, ginawa din yan. So hopefully, ayan yung evaluation form. So if you have questions pa, throw it. I'll be happily answering the questions. And then once again, congratulations guys. 5 days inilaan nyo sa oras na to. Grabe kayo. So 100 plus down to last 20 plus. And then who will make it to the finale? Kumbaga sa finale ng Starstruck, SCQ, at kung ano pa. Sino nga abot sa final? So hopefully, yeah, ma-welcome namin kayo sa pool. Ayan. So with that, so happy answering yung evaluation natin. And then good night everyone sa mga gusto mag-stay at may tanong pa. Just continue, you may ask your questions. Don't worry.